Imagine this. You're walking into a room filled with people, colleagues, friends, maybe even strangers. Suddenly, one person says something that cuts deeper than a knife. Maybe they mock your intelligence. Maybe they laugh at your ambitions. Maybe they twist your weaknesses into a weapon right in front of everyone. In that moment, what do most people do? They flinch. They get defensive. They rush to explain themselves. And without even realizing it, they hand over their power on a silver platter. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Every time you let someone control your emotions, you've already lost. Every time you react out of anger, desperation, or fear, you become their puppet. And puppets don't get respected, they get played. But what if you could flip the script? What if you could walk through life untouchable, so calm, so unshakable that insults bounce off you, like arrows against stone? What if your silence made people nervous, your composure made them doubt themselves, and your indifference made them powerless? That's not fantasy. That's psychology. That's strategy. And it's exactly what the masters of power, from Machiavelli to modern thinkers, understood centuries ago. This is not about being passive. This is not about ignoring the world. This is about learning to weaponize your mind, to turn every attempt to provoke you into proof of your dominance. By the end of this journey, you will not just survive the chaos, you will command it. Picture this: someone insults you. It might be subtle, a smirk, a mocking tone, or it might be a blunt attack on your character. The natural instinct is to fire back, to explain, to defend, to prove you're not weak. But here's the paradox. The moment you react, you've already lost. Why? Because reaction is submission, disguised as strength. You think you're fighting back, but in reality you're playing their game by their rules. They set the tone. They dictated the frame, and you walked right into it. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He warned that the person who lets himself be moved by insults is already defeated. Why? Because control is the true currency of power, not money, not status, not even words. The one who controls the emotional tempo of an exchange controls the outcome. Think about a chess master. The amateur gets rattled when a piece is taken. They rush, they overextend, they make mistakes. The master calm, calculating, unbothered. Every move is deliberate. Every silence is intentional. In life, emotional control works the same way. The fool shows everything. The wise conceal everything. And here's what most people never realize: when you react, you reveal. You reveal where you're weak. You reveal what matters too much to you. You reveal exactly how to manipulate you next time. But when you don't react, when you sit in calm indifference, you reveal nothing. That mystery is terrifying. That calmness is more intimidating than rage could ever be. Now ask yourself, how many times have you given away your power without noticing? How many times have you exploded in anger, defended yourself too much, or desperately tried to correct someone's view of you? Every one of those moments was a transfer of power from you to them. But starting today, you can reverse it. You can train yourself to become the immovable force in every room. The person who doesn't flinch, doesn't scramble, doesn't beg for approval. The person who pauses, breathes, and decides not reacts. That's the difference between being controlled and being in control. Here's a simple truth to tattoo on your mind. The one who reacts first loses. Memorize it. Repeat it when your pulse rises. Use it as your shield the next time someone tries to bait you into chaos, because once you stop reacting, you stop bleeding power, and when you stop bleeding power, you begin to radiate it. People feel it even if they can't explain it. They start to think twice before testing you. They start to respect what they can't shake. Now, before we move forward, I want you to anchor this lesson with action. Drop this affirmation in the comments: I never react. I always choose. That's not just a sentence. It's the first step to rewiring your psychology. In the next chapter, we'll go deeper into the invisible shield that makes this possible: the art of indifference, the science of silence, and why those who speak least often hold the most power. Imagine this: someone throws an insult at you. The words fly through the air like arrows. But what makes the arrow sharp? Not the wood, not the feather. It's your skin, your choice to let it pierce. The truth is, simple words are sounds. They only become weapons when you hand them power with your reaction. Most people get this wrong. They think indifference means weakness. They confuse calmness with passivity. They see silence and assume defeat. But here's what they miss. Indifference isn't surrender. It's dominance. Think of a mountain during a storm. The winds scream. The rain crashes, lightning strikes. Does the mountain flinch? Does it shout back at the thunder? No. It stands unmoved. And because it stands unmoved, it outlasts the storm. That's what real strength looks like in human psychology, the ability to stay grounded while chaos swirls around you. Machiavelli hinted at this when he wrote, "It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." Fear doesn't always come from aggression. Often it comes from composure. The man who shouts shows his hand. The man who smiles or stays silent makes others wonder. Mystery is power. Calmness is control. Let me ask you, have you ever noticed how the person who stays calm in an argument usually wins, even if they say very little? That's because reaction is predictable. Calmness is not. And in the game of influence, predictability is vulnerability. Here's the mental shift you must make. Stop thinking of reaction as strength. Start thinking of non-reaction as a weapon. When you don't react, you strip the other person of their victory. Their insult doesn't land. Their attempt to provoke dies in silence. They become frustrated, uncomfortable, even fearful because they can't read you. And the best part, this isn't about ignoring reality. It's about controlling the battlefield of your mind. The one who cannot be provoked cannot be manipulated. The one who cannot be manipulated cannot be defeated. From today, every time someone tries to bait you, I want you to remind yourself of this line. Power begins where reaction ends. Say it internally. Breathe it. Hold it until it becomes instinct. Because the moment you stop reacting, you become untouchable. Now, anchor this truth with action. Drop this affirmation in the comments. My silence is my power. In the next chapter, we'll explore the first law of mental mastery, why you must always expect disrespect before it arrives, and how preparation turns pain into predictability. Picture this, you walk into a meeting confident, prepared. You've worked for weeks on your idea, and before you even finish speaking, someone scoffs. Another rolls their eyes. A third whispers just loud enough for you to hear. Most people freeze in that moment. They're shocked, hurt. They ask themselves, why me? Why are they being unfair? Here's the brutal truth. Disrespect is not an accident. It's a strategy. People use it to test you, to gauge your strength, to see if they can get under your skin. And if you expect fairness, if you expect kindness, you've already lost. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He warned that betrayal, envy, and mockery are constants of human nature. To be surprised by them is to walk into battle unarmed. The wise expect hostility, so they are never caught off guard. The fool expects loyalty and bleeds when it's broken. Think about a soldier walking through a dangerous neighborhood. Do they stroll casually, expecting smiles and handshakes? Of course not. They stay alert, scanning every corner, prepared for danger. Life is that dangerous neighborhood, and most people, they wander through with their guard down, wondering why they keep getting hurt. The moment you start expecting disrespect, something powerful happens. You stop being shocked. You stop being rattled. Their words, their looks, their petty games lose the element of surprise. And without surprise, they lose their power. Here's the secret. This doesn't make you cynical. It makes you realistic. You're not hoping for the worst, you're simply prepared for it. And when it comes, you meet it with ice-cold calmness, not emotional chaos. Try this practice tomorrow before you walk into any room, work, family, even social media. Say to yourself, someone may try to test me today. When it happens, you won't be surprised. You'll be ready, and your calmness will shake them more than their disrespect ever could. Machiavelli once said, "The wise man does at once what the fool does at last. The wise prepare for the storm before the first drop falls. The fool waits until he's drenched." So, from today forward, carry this shield, expect disrespect. Not because you're weak, but because you're strong enough to see the world as it is. When you expect it, you neutralize it. When you neutralize it, you remain unshakable. Now anchor this lesson. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I expect nothing. I fear nothing. In the next chapter, we'll dive into one of the most underrated weapons of power, the art of silence, and how saying nothing can crush an enemy louder than any comeback ever could. Imagine this. Someone tries to provoke you. Maybe it's at work, maybe it's at home, maybe it's online. They mock you, question, you throw barbs just sharp enough to get a rise out of you. What do they want? Not the words they say, not the point they make. They want one thing, your reaction. And most people give it to them. They snap back, they explain, they argue, they defend. But here's the paradox. The moment you answer, they win. Your reaction is their fuel. Now picture this instead. You say nothing. No defense, no explanation, no visible anger, just silence. What happens? Suddenly they become uncomfortable. They fidget. They repeat themselves. They escalate. Why? Because the weapon they thought would cut you bounced right off. That's the power of silence. Machiavelli hinted at this when he said, "It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." Silence is fear disguised as calm. It makes people wonder, did my insult fail? Are they planning something? Why aren't they reacting? That uncertainty is more terrifying than rage. Think of the last time you saw someone win an argument without saying a single word. Maybe it was a raised eyebrow. Maybe it was a calm smile. The silence screamed louder than any words. That's the kind of control you need to practice. But here's the key. Not all silence is equal. The silence of someone who is hurt and speechless is weakness. The silence of someone who chooses not to respond is power. The difference is intention. Your silence must feel deliberate, not defeated. How do you build it? Start small. The next time someone makes a petty comment, don't rush to answer. Count to 10. Breathe. If you must respond, let it be short and dismissive. Interesting opinion. Or simply walk away. The less energy you give, the more control you have. Remember this formula: reaction equals surrender. Silence equals dominance. Anchor this law with action. Drop this affirmation in the comments. Silence is strength. Let it remind you that silence is not the absence of power, it is the proof of it. In the next chapter, we'll expose one of the most dangerous leaks of power: uncontrolled emotions. You'll see why showing rage, tears, or desperation is like handing your enemies a map to your weak spots, and how to reverse it to become unreadable, unstoppable, and unshakable. Picture this: someone pushes your buttons. Maybe they question your ability in front of others. Maybe they laugh at your failures. Maybe they spread a rumor you know isn't true. Your chest tightens, your pulse rises, your hands shake. The urge to snap back, to scream, to defend yourself burns inside you. That's normal. That's human. But here's the brutal truth: the moment you show it, you lose. Rage tears over, explaining they're all signals. They tell the other person exactly where to strike next time. You've just handed them the map to your weak spots. Most people think power is about being fearless, about never feeling anything. That's wrong. Power is about control. The master feels everything, but shows nothing. The amateur shows everything, but controls nothing. Machiavelli understood this when he wrote, "Since love and fear can hardly exist together, if we must choose between them, it is far safer to be feared than loved." Why? Because fear is born from unpredictability. If no one can read you, no one can control you. Think of a poker table. The loser slams their cards, groans, throws their chips in frustration. Everyone instantly knows their emotions and adjusts. The winner stone-faced. Calm, impossible to read, and because no one can read them, no one can exploit them. Here's the key: emotions are not the enemy. They are signals. But signals only become weapons when you broadcast them. The strong person acknowledges the fire inside but doesn't let the flames leak out. They choose their response like a surgeon choosing a scalpel. Precise, deliberate, cold. Try this technique the next time you feel a surge of anger or embarrassment. Pause. Take a deep breath. Imagine you are watching the situation from outside your body as if it were happening to someone else. Ask yourself, what would I advise that person to do? That distance gives you control. Repeat this truth until it becomes instinct. Emotions are information, not commands. They tell you something is happening. They don't get to decide how you respond. Anchor this lesson now. Drop this affirmation in the comments, I control myself. Let it remind you that your power doesn't lie in suppressing emotions. It lies in mastering them. Because once you stop bleeding your emotions onto the battlefield, you become unreadable. And when you're unreadable, you're unstoppable. In the next chapter, we'll dive into one of the deadliest traps that robs people of power, the urge to defend. You'll discover why explaining yourself too much is a silent admission of weakness and how to flip the script to control the frame instead of playing by theirs. Imagine this. Someone looks you in the eye and says, "You're not smart enough for that job." What's your instinct? For most people, it's to list their qualifications, to prove their worth, to explain why the insult is wrong. It feels like strength. But here's the twist. The moment you defend, you've already admitted weakness. Why? Because defending means you've accepted their frame. You've allowed their opinion to become the center of the conversation. You're playing their game by their rules, and in doing so, you've handed them control. Machiavelli understood this when he wrote, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are." Strong people don't rush to explain themselves. Powerful people don't scramble for approval. The more you defend, the more you reveal. The less you defend, the more you dominate. Think about it like this. If a king is accused of being unworthy, does he parade around the castle, showing off his crown to prove it's real? No. His silence and composure prove it's real. The very act of defending would betray insecurity. So what should you do instead? Control the frame. That means refusing to step into their narrative. If someone says, "You'll never succeed," don't give them evidence. Simply say, "That's an interesting opinion." Then change the subject. If they push harder, laugh. If they mock again, stay calm. The point is not to ignore them, it's to show they don't dictate how you engage. This shift is subtle but deadly. When you refuse to defend, you project strength. When you dismiss instead of explain, you show that their words don't even register as significant. And when you reframe the conversation, you pull them into your world under your rules. Here's the practical move. Every time you feel the urge to defend, stop. Ask yourself, whose frame am I in right now? If it's theirs, step back. Either stay silent or redirect. Make them chase you, not the other way around. Anchor this lesson right now. Drop this affirmation in the comments, I control the frame. Let it remind you that the person who sets the terms of the conversation always holds the power. Because the truth is simple, defending too much makes you look guilty. Controlling the frame makes you untouchable. And when people can't shake you, they start to respect you, even fear you. In the next chapter, we'll expose another hidden trap, the addiction to validation. You'll see why praise can weaken you just as much as criticism, and how to break free from the chains of other people's opinions once and for all. Picture this. You just accomplished something important, maybe a project at work, maybe a personal milestone. People applaud you. Compliments pour in. You feel unstoppable. But then one critic appears. They downplay your success, mock your effort, or question your worth. Instantly, the high collapses. Your mood shifts. One negative word outweighs 100 praises. Why? Because you've built your self-worth on the shaky foundation of other people's opinions. Here's the paradox. It's not just criticism that enslaves you. Praise does too. When you rely on compliments to feel good, you're as fragile as someone who crumbles under insults. Both are chains. Both keep you tied to the judgment of others. Machiavelli hinted at this when he wrote, "The first method for estimating the intelligence of a ruler is to look at the men he has around him. In other words, not every voice matters. A wise person listens selectively. They take feedback from the worthy, not from the crowd. Think about social media. One day your post gets hundreds of likes, you feel validated. The next day, silence. Suddenly you doubt yourself. Your mood swings because you've outsourced your power to strangers behind screens. That isn't strength. That's dependence. The truly powerful person is independent of both applause and attack. They have an inner compass. They measure themselves by their values, their discipline, their goals, not by shifting opinions. Praise becomes pleasant, but unnecessary. Criticism becomes information, not devastation. Here's a practical challenge for 1 week. Stop seeking validation. Don't ask if people liked your work. Don't check how many likes or comments you got. Don't fish for compliments. Notice how much energy you reclaim. Notice how your confidence grows when it no longer depends on others' reactions. Because here's the truth, if you need praise to rise, you'll collapse under criticism. But if you detach from both, you become untouchable. You stand steady no matter what storms come your way. Anchor this lesson now. Drop this affirmation in the comments, I validate myself. Let it remind you that true confidence comes from within, not from applause or approval. In the next chapter, we'll sharpen your discipline even further. You'll discover how to train your mind like an athlete, rewarding control, punishing reaction, until self-mastery becomes automatic and unshakable. Picture this. Someone tries to provoke you. Maybe it's a sarcastic coworker, maybe a family member who knows how to push your buttons. This time, you feel the heat rise in your chest, but instead of snapping, you pause. You breathe. You stay calm. Afterward, you think, that was hard, but I did it. And then, nothing. You move on. Here's the problem. Most people don't reinforce their victories. They let moments of control pass unnoticed. But when they lose control, when they snap, when they overreact, they stew in guilt. Their brain learns the wrong lesson. Chaos feels more memorable than calm. Machiavelli warned, men are so simple and so ready to obey present necessities that the one who deceives will always find those who allow themselves to be deceived. In other words, the mind learns from consequences. If you don't train it deliberately, it trains itself usually in the wrong direction. The solution: treat yourself like a champion athlete. Champions don't just train skills, they train habits through reward and punishment. Every time you show control in the face of provocation, reward yourself. It doesn't have to be big, a favorite meal, a short break, a small gift. You're teaching your brain calmness feels good. And every time you react emotionally, when you could have stayed composed, punish yourself with discipline. Cold shower, extra workout, no entertainment that evening. You're teaching your brain reaction costs me. Over time, your subconscious rewires. Calmness becomes natural. Reaction feels foreign. This isn't about perfection, it's about direction. Each choice strengthens the muscle of self-mastery. Think of it like training a dog. Without consistent rewards and boundaries, chaos reigns. With structured discipline and reinforcement, order emerges. Your mind is no different. Here's your challenge for the next 7 days. Track every time you face provocation. When you win, reward yourself. When you lose, punish yourself. Don't rely on willpower, build a system. Systems succeed where motivation fails. Anchor this lesson now. Drop this affirmation in the comments, I train myself. Let it remind you that self-control isn't an accident. It's a habit you build. Because once your brain starts associating calm with pleasure and reaction with pain, you'll no longer force yourself to stay composed. You'll do it automatically. And that's when you become truly dangerous calm, not by effort, but by nature. In the next chapter, we'll take this further. You'll discover how indifference itself can become a weapon. Why caring less frustrates manipulators more than anger ever could, and how to turn not caring into the sharpest blade in your arsenal. Picture this. Someone insults you to your face. They expect anger, a comeback, maybe even a fight. But instead you look at them with complete indifference. No spark of irritation, no flash of emotion, just calm detachment. Suddenly they're thrown off balance. They wanted to provoke you. Instead, they're left frustrated, powerless, and oddly unsettled. That's the secret most people miss. Indifference is sharper than anger. Anger gives your enemy proof that they've touched a nerve. Indifference tells them they don't matter enough to touch anything at all. Machiavelli wrote, "The lion cannot protect himself from traps, and the fox cannot defend himself from wolves. One must therefore be a fox to recognize traps and a lion to frighten wolves." When people try to bait you, indifference is the fox. It recognizes the trap and refuses to step inside. Think of the person in your life who genuinely doesn't care what others think. People either respect them or desperately chase their attention. That's the paradox. The less you care, the more power you hold. But here's the catch: indifference must be real, not fake. Fake indifference looks forced. You're pretending not to care, but deep down you're still hooked. People can sense that. True indifference comes from focus. When your energy is consumed by your goals, your growth, your mission, you simply don't have the bandwidth for petty games. Here's a practical shift. The next time someone mocks you, ask yourself, does this affect my mission? If the answer is no, dismiss it. Save your energy for what matters. When you redirect attention from their drama to your destiny, you starve them of oxygen. Remember this formula: the more indifferent you are, the more desperate they become. That desperation will eat them alive long before anger ever could. Anchor this law now. Drop this affirmation in the comments: indifference is my weapon. Let it remind you that sometimes the most devastating strike is no strike at all. Because once you master indifference, you become unprovocable. And when you're unprovocable, you're uncontrollable. In the next chapter, we'll turn the game even further in your favor. You'll learn how to take every insult, every attack, every ounce of negative energy, and redirect it into fuel that builds your strength, sharpens your skills, and accelerates your rise. Picture this: someone mocks you. They say you'll never succeed, that your dreams are foolish, that you're not good enough. For most people, those words cut deep. They dwell on them, replaying the insult over and over until it poisons their energy. But here's the shift. What if every insult wasn't poison but fuel? What if every attack could be converted into raw power for your rise? Most people waste negative energy. They burn it on anger, on arguments, on obsessing over what others think. But the wise, they know every attack is a gift in disguise. It reveals where others think you're weak, and it gives you the energy to make that weakness your strength. Machiavelli once declared, "I am not interested in preserving the status quo. I want to overthrow it." The same principle applies here. Don't preserve your enemy's expectations. Overthrow them. Use their doubts as motivation to prove them wrong, not to them, but to yourself. Think of the greatest athletes, the most successful leaders, the most relentless creators. Almost every one of them had doubters, haters, and critics. But instead of letting those voices destroy them, they turned them into fuel. You say, "I can't watch me." That mindset doesn't just silence critics, it transforms them into unwitting coaches. Here's how you do it. If someone attacks your appearance, make it your strength with discipline and fitness. If they attack your intelligence, sharpen it with learning and practice. If they attack your dreams, use it to double your work ethic. Every insult is a clue. Every attack is information. They're handing you the blueprint of what they think will break you. Flip it. Build it into your armor. Here's the formula to tattoo into your mind. Victims let attacks weaken them. Victors let attacks strengthen them. The next time someone throws shade at you, don't waste your breath defending yourself. Don't waste your peace on anger. Instead, ask, how can I use this to improve? That one question turns every enemy into an accidental ally because their negativity becomes the spark for your evolution. Anchor this lesson now. Drop this affirmation in the comments: "I use every attack as fuel." Let it remind you that no insult, no mockery, no criticism can harm you unless you allow it. Because once you master this, something magical happens. The more they attack, the stronger you grow. And that's the most terrifying revenge of all, becoming untouchable by turning their hate into your power. In the next chapter, we'll go even deeper into strategy. You'll learn why not every battle deserves your attention, and how cold calculation, not pride, should decide whether to strike back or walk away. Picture this. Someone wrongs you. Maybe they humiliate you in public. Maybe they betray your trust. Maybe they try to sabotage your success. Your blood boils. Your first thought, I need revenge. I need to make them pay. That reaction is natural. But here's the trap: revenge pursued in anger is almost always weakness disguised as strength. It drains your time, your focus, your energy that could be building your empire instead of feeding your enemy. Machiavelli understood this perfectly. He knew vengeance is not an obligation, it's a tool. Never was anything great achieved without danger, he wrote. But he also implied not every danger is worth facing. A strong person does not fight every battle. A strong person chooses their battles with cold calculation. Think of two paths. Path 1, you lash out instantly, driven by pride. You prove your point maybe, but you've wasted resources and shown your hand. Path 2, you pause. You ask yourself, will this revenge advance my goals? Will it protect something important? Will it send a message worth sending? If yes, you plan carefully and strike at the right time. If no, you walk away completely. This isn't weakness, it's mastery. Walking away when the battle costs more than it gives is a victory in itself. It shows you're not ruled by pride, but by purpose. Think of a master swordsman. Does he swing at every shadow? No. He saves his blade for the fight that matters. The fool swings wildly, exhausting himself before the real battle begins. Here's the shift you must make. Let pride die. Pride wants to fight everything. Power fights only what serves its purpose. A practical exercise: the next time someone offends you, resist the urge to react immediately. Instead, write down the costs of responding versus the benefits. If the scales tip in your favor, act strategically later when it suits you. If not, let it go with icy detachment. That coldness will terrify more than anger ever could. Anchor this truth right now. Drop this affirmation in the comments I choose wisely. Let it remind you that real power isn't in striking back, it's in choosing if and when to strike at all. Because once you master cold calculation, you become unpredictable. And unpredictability makes you untouchable. In the next chapter, we'll unlock the final law, the crown jewel of detachment. You'll discover how to build a mindset so unshakable, so independent, that nothing outside of you can disturb your peace. That's when you don't just survive chaos, you rule it. Picture this. Someone tries to provoke you, but not with words by threatening what you love. Maybe they insult your family. Maybe they attack your work. Maybe they question your dreams. For most people, this is the breaking point. They snap. They sacrifice their peace to defend what matters most. But here's the harsh truth. The moment someone finds what you must protect, at all costs, they've found your leash. And with that leash, they can pull you in any direction they want. Machiavelli wrote, "He who is highly esteemed is not easily conspired against." Why? Because the person who doesn't need external approval, external praise, or even external outcomes cannot be controlled. Detachment is not about not caring. It's about caring without dependency. Think of a warrior. He loves victory but doesn't collapse in defeat. He cherishes his comrades but isn't ruled by fear of loss. He wants success but doesn't beg for it. That balance makes him untouchable. Because when nothing external can shatter your inner state, no one can manipulate you. Detachment means having preferences, not dependencies. You prefer respect, but you don't need it. You prefer praise, but you don't depend on it. You prefer success, but your identity isn't destroyed without it. Here's a practical way to build it. When success comes, enjoy it, but hold it lightly. When failure strikes, learn from it, but don't cling to the pain. When praise arrives, accept it with gratitude, but don't let it define you. When criticism hits, consider it. If useful, discard it. If not. The goal is simple: full engagement without fragile attachment. To walk into life with open hands instead of clenched fists. Because once you master this, you reach the highest state of mental power, untouchability. Insults don't sting, threats don't sway you, approval doesn't addict you, disapproval doesn't break you. People can try every trick in the book, but nothing moves you without your permission. That calmness doesn't just earn respect, it commands it. Anchor this law now. Drop this affirmation in the comments, I am untouchable. Let it remind you that your worth is rooted in yourself, not in the shifting winds of the world, because once you wear the crown of detachment, you're not just strong, you're sovereign. You don't just survive the chaos, you rise above it. In the next chapter, we'll bring all 10 laws together. You'll see how each one builds on the other, forming an unshakable armor of mental mastery, so you don't just play the game of power, you dominate it. Picture this. Tomorrow, someone insults you. Next week, someone doubts you. Next month, someone tries to drag you into their chaos. Will you fall into the same trap, reacting, defending, bleeding power, or will you finally rise above untouchable? That is the choice these 10 laws have placed before you. Let's recap what you've learned. Law 1. Expect disrespect before it arrives. Prepared minds never get rattled. Law 2. Master silence. Your calm absence of words crushes louder than comebacks. Law 3. Never let emotions betray you. Feel everything, show nothing. Law 4. Control the frame, never defend. Make them play by your rules, not theirs. Law 5. Detach from opinions, both praise and criticism. Both are chains. Break them. Law 6. Reward control, punish reaction. Train your brain like an athlete trains muscle. Law 7. Use indifference as a weapon. Nothing frustrates manipulators more. Law 8. Redirect attacks into power. Every insult is fuel for growth. Law 9. Let go with cold calculation. Not every battle deserves your blade. Law 10. Become untouchable through detachment. Preferences, not dependencies. Together, these laws form more than strategies. They form an identity. The identity of someone who no longer reacts like the crowd, but commands like a sovereign. The weak chase approval. The strong command respect. The master doesn't even need to demand it. It flows naturally from their presence. Machiavelli hinted at this truth long ago. Power belongs not to those who shout the loudest, but to those who cannot be shaken. And now you hold that blueprint. But here's the critical part. Knowledge without action is worthless. These laws will not transform you unless you practice them. So, here is your mission this week. Pick one law. Practice it daily until it feels natural. Next week, add another. Layer strength on strength. Over months, watch yourself evolve into someone who cannot be manipulated, cannot be provoked, cannot be controlled. Anchor your transformation right now. Drop this final affirmation in the comments. I am cold, calm, untouchable. Let it seal in your identity shift. Because here's the reality, most people will continue reacting, defending, and bleeding power for the rest of their lives. But not you. You've been handed the dark laws of mastery, the ones few will ever know, and even fewer will ever live. The question is simple. Will you be the one who reacts or the one who rules? Picture this. You've walked through the 10 laws. You've faced the shadows of disrespect, silence, emotion, control, validation, indifference, and detachment. Each chapter was not just a lesson, it was a test. And if you're still here, it means you're no longer the same person who pressed play. You are colder now, calmer, sharper, less reactive, more deliberate. You've seen what most people never see, that power doesn't come from shouting or defending or chasing approval. Power comes from the one who cannot be moved, the one who chooses when to act and when not to. Machiavelli wrote, "He who is highly esteemed is not easily conspired against." Respect is your new shield, detachment is your crown, silence is your sword, and indifference is the armor no enemy can pierce. But now comes the real challenge. This knowledge must leave the screen and enter your life. Tomorrow, when someone tests you, will you snap or will you pause? Next week, when someone mocks you, will you defend or will you smile in silence? Next month, when someone tries to drag you into their chaos, will you fight pointlessly or walk away with cold calculation? That's why we end not with advice, but with a ritual, a vow. Speak it, write it, live it. I am cold, calm, untouchable. I control myself, therefore I control the frame. I validate myself. Nothing external defines me. My silence is my weapon. My detachment is my crown. These are not just words. They are psychological anchors. Every time you repeat them, you remind your mind who you are becoming. And now I ask you to act. If these laws have shifted something in you, prove it. Like this video, not for me, but as a signal to yourself that you choose strength over weakness. Share it with someone who bleeds power through their reactions, someone who needs these laws before life breaks them. And subscribe, because this is only the beginning. The next lessons will take you deeper into the psychology of influence strategy and unshakable power. This is your initiation. From now on, you don't just live by accident, you live by design. You don't just play the game, you master it. The weak will keep reacting. The masses will keep bleeding. But you've chosen the path of the untouchable. The final question is simple when the world tries to shake you. Will you break or will you rule?